everyone, welcome back to a Track Talk. We're heading into the final weekend at CTMP, and we thought we'd have on Eric Kunz, a rookie driver in the SCCC. He's running in the TCA class, currently sitting P2 in the championship, and coming off a great weekend at GP3R where he got his first win in a night race, capped off with another win and a P2. He's a great kid. He's learned a lot this season. He's got some great advice for those coming out of go-karts, as he only started a couple of years ago. He's a Sick Kids Patient ambassador and has an amazing story in terms of his condition and how racing has kind of impacted that. And overall is a lot of fun to talk to, and hope you guys enjoy the conversation. So welcome to Track Talk, Eric Kunz. So let's jump into kind of what got you into racing in the first place and when you start.
So I started a few years ago, right when COVID hit in 2020. That was my first jump into karting. My parents were getting a little annoyed at me playing so many video games. So they said I had to do something outside. And yeah, I wanted to do skydiving. They said no to that. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going racing. So I hopped into Arrive and Drive at Goodwood Kartways and then haven't looked back since. Just moved into cars right at the end of last year.
Oh, so a bit of a late bloomer. I didn't realize that you didn't kind of grow up karting and stuff then.
Yeah, my family's not even a motorsports family. I'm the first one to actually be interested in racing.
Where'd that bug kind of come from then? Like, did you have an interest in F1? Were you playing like the F1 video games and stuff?
Yeah, I think I just even before COVID, I had an interest in F1. I came across a YouTube video. I can't remember who, but they're playing like the Motorsports Manager video game. And like, that looks really fun. So that was my first kind of jump into motorsports, was playing that game. And then after that, I got into F1 2016. And then just from there, it's kind of grown.
And now this is your first year in like a pro series, right? And also, but also for cars in general. Is that correct? Or you I know you did some car experience, but not a full championship, right?
Yeah, this is my full first time full championship in cars. Yeah, I started right at the end of last year. At this time, actually, last year was my first jump into a race car, and it was pure luck. It was just right place, right time. I made friends with the right people. It was actually at the Labor Day sprints last year. I came over watching the FEL race, watching the GT4s go by, talking to a team owner, and he's like, "Yeah, we're out here tomorrow. You want to come out?" So pure luck. One day I was at the karting track. Next day I was out at the big track at CTMP, which was an experience.
Wow. Just from like walking around and kind of talking through in the paddock.
Yeah, I was over at the kart track, and one of the people that I used to kart with came over and said, "Hey, he was racing Sentras over at CTMP, or at the main track." So I went over with him. He introduced me to a team owner. Next day, I was out in a race car for the first time.
And baptized by fire too. Like the Grand Prix track for your first time in a car on a real track is
Yeah, it was definitely. I had been out once before as a passenger, with my uncle, and then that kind of just, yeah, I fell in love instantly.
and so and you mentioned playing a lot of video games. Had you like I'm assuming like are you into sim racing and stuff at all? Had you kind of known the layout before at least hopping into the car?
At that point in time, I wasn't super into sim racing. Like, I had a wheel I just kind of like attached to my desk and had the pedals on the floor that would slip around everywhere. Now I have a full rig because racing, right? I'm full on into it now. At the time, it was kind of more just the F1 games, a little bit of a set of course every now and then. Yeah, just nothing super serious. So I knew the layout from being a passenger, but it was kind of like, is this corner two or is this like corner four, right? So it's kind of just
Yeah.
like going slow at first. Um, yeah, I was a little bit off the pace, but
And then so now you said you've got yourself a rig. Are you using that a lot through the season, kind of getting ready for, Honda Indy, GP3R, big street circuits that you want to have an idea what you're doing before you get there, right?
definitely, especially for Indy and GP3R, those were the big ones, right? So I was on the sim a lot for those. And I think especially at GP3R really paid off because that's a tight track. So knowing where I'm going was really important.
For those listeners unaware, we're coming off GP3R weekend, which Eric claimed not only his first win of his career, but his second win as well, and a P2 was it to cap it off. So pretty good weekend for your first time there. I mean, I was telling you this at the track, right? But from where you kind of started the first weekend at Motorsport to now, it's incredible the progression you made. It also a great example of what the TCA class is, right? Like, because now I feel like would you be pretty confident if you were to hop in, say, a TCR or something one day?
For sure, I'd be comfortable hopping in a TCR. I think still an adjustment, right? Different car. TCA is a great stepping stone, but I don't think I'd improve nearly as much as I have without my team, Sanders Motorsport. They have done wonders to that car, setting it up so well, and then just the coaching as well. I couldn't have done nearly as good as I did without them.
Yeah, Alan and Gavin too, for that matter, I guess, because I'm sure he's helping you out a bit, right? Yeah, they know what they're doing.
They've worked wonders with that car and with me as well. They've just been amazing. Yeah.
What was the biggest kind of like learning curve with the car? Like maybe the stick shift. Like I'm assuming that was probably took some adjustment.
I've been driving stick since I was 16. And I was okay with that. And when I did my license, it was all in stick as well. I had experience with the stick. I think the front wheel drive though was the big one.
Yeah,
I'd only driven rear wheel, but rear wheel before that. So I think that's the big one was the front wheel.
yeah, because learning how to kind of get out the corner and not, understeer your front end right off in the low speed stuff. Like I know it's pretty tricky. And then too, I've heard from some of the drivers in the paddock, right? The ABS system on those cars is also takes some getting used to. It has a lot of kickback. I know, kind of the high end braking.
Yeah, I think that's more of an issue with the 11th gens over
Oh,
the
okay.
10th gens. I'm in the older car, right?
Yeah,
I haven't had ABS issues. I know some of the other cars have had different issues with their ABS not working at all or kicking in too early. So I've been lucky. I haven't had any ABS issues, and I think my braking package overall has just been very good, especially with the Paget brakes. They've been phenomenal. Especially at GP3R, we were able to go hard on the brakes throughout the entire session for the full 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So that was, I think, big. I know some of the other cars were struggling with brake fade.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, we shouldn't really just glance over that weekend. I mean, let's dive into the night race specifically because that was your first win. I know you had mentioned to me you had some night racing experience, but still, in a street circuit, only the second session you guys had on track. And I remember because I was watching, doing my videography trackside in the arch, and I see you coming inside Trevor Hill into the arch into it for the lead. And I was like, oh, but made it work. It was kind of the perfect amount where you got in there to kind of compromise his exit, and then down the straight you went, took the lead, and never looked back.
Yeah, I think those 11th gens are quick down the straight. So he actually got back. I got around him, and then he came back to my outside and actually cleared me down the straightaway. But like I said, with our braking performance with the PAG, it's just it was they couldn't match us into the braking zones. So I just managed to send it back down into turn four at the end of the back straight, which felt pretty good to take that lead.
Yeah, and then just kind of head down, nailed the laps in, and took the checker. But that must have been a pretty relieving feeling, but also exciting. I'm sure lots of emotions, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? I was expecting to be like super excited, so happy, but like you said, it's more kind of relieving to get that first win out of the way. The second win definitely was much more exciting.
And I remember too a funny thing when you guys spraying the champagne. Might need to bring some goggles up next time, eh?
Yeah, on the first win, I went to take a sip of the champagne and it fizzed up, came out my nose and into my eyes.
Si, si, on se dit à demain matin, tout le monde.
Yeah, I have.
And then, of course, Richard Boak had to go yell "rookie" when it happened. Yeah, it was something that's a very memorable first win in cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of the Super Bowl of FEL in terms of if there's one race I think everyone wants to win, it's the night race at GP3R because it's It's the only one we got, and it's pretty special, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I couldn't have done without my team. They set that car up perfectly after one session with the little amount of feedback I could give back.
Let's dive into a bit kind of your story because I know you're a Sick Kids ambassador, right? Now, I've never talked to you about this, and I only know bits and stuff from Jessica. But why don't you kind of dive into your story from that side of things, kind of outside of the car, but also how racing has kind of impacted that.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a sick kids patient for as long as I could remember. I have a very rare disease called caposiform lymphangiomatosis.
That's a mouthful.
I would tell you how to spell it, but I have no clue. Yeah, so I've been dealing with that since I think I was 3 or 4. So in other words, it just causes my lymphatic fluid to overproduce, and then it leaks into the sac around my lung, which causes chronic pain. So just dealing with that has been a challenge in itself. And racing has really helped me feel it's the I think it might be the adrenaline. I'm not too sure why. But it's when I'm driving, there's nothing. It's just driving. It's just in that moment. So it's the only time I don't feel pain. So I think for me, that's the big thing. I think that might contribute to why I love it so much. Um, and it's just a lot of fun too. So yeah, I became a Sick Kids patient ambassador towards the end of last season. I wanted to be able to give back somehow. And then that wanting to give back sprung into the not-for-profit that I started this year.
And why don't we kind of jump into that, the non-for-profit, because I know you guys did some fundraising at some of the races. And do you want to kind of talk about where people can go in to kind of donate to that and contribute?
Yeah, for sure. So we're running a prize draw right now with the grand prize being F1 tickets to Las Vegas. So tickets are $10 for the chance to win, and all our money net of the platform fees that we're running the draw through goes directly to Sick Kids. So yeah, you can go to drivenliving.ca and you can find it there.
With you being new to motorsports, you might have a unique answer to this, but if you could race in any motorsports era or series or type of car, what would it be?
I think like it's kind of tied between two for me. So the V10 era Formula One is just the engines. I think that's a pretty common answer. The sound is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And then the other one is Group B Rally.
Oh,
There's just something about those, like the Audi Quattros, the Lancias, and
yeah.
oh
Perfection.
the speed, the craziness, and then I like this the fear that I'd feel would be just
Yeah. Talk about adrenaline.
I think those crowds that you would see too back in those days at the rally events, like, just a line, and they'd be on the actual circuit and they just dive out of the way. That like that's insanity, and I kind of love the insanity.
Yeah. I think, yeah, don't we all? Yeah, I think some of the crowd stuff is crazier than the drivers even. I mean, they're borderline stupid in some cases. I wouldn't be doing it. How about, do you have a famous driver that you've kind of looked up to?
I think like in the modern era, Lewis Hamilton is definitely. I think right when I came into starting to watch motorsports, he had just moved from McLaren to Mercedes, so I was kind of like just getting into it around then, and that's like I so that's kind of when I fell in love with it. And secondary, like in the past, Nicky Lauda, I think
Great answer.
definitely my favorite. I have him right here above me
Yeah, I
on a
noticed that.
poster.
Yeah, even after his career, right? What he even did with Mercedes actually and Lewis, right? But yeah, he is super inspiring, and I love his kind of mindset too, right? He has some great quotes out there. I know one of them, like he's learned so much more from losing than he does from winning, right? I think that's something all athletes can take and learn from.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've learned a lot from following some of the other drivers. Like at Toronto Indy, I was following behind Trevor and James Vance and watching them battle, and I learned so much from studying what they're doing.
That would be exciting to watch too, because even just some of the corners I could watch them look. They were having some good fights.
It was such a good battle. I was right there behind them too. And the draft off the TCAs is absolutely insane. Second, I'm
Oh,
in
is it?
fourth gear. It's a massive boost. Like I had to lift off halfway down the straight so I wouldn't go
Wow.
into the back of them while they're side by side. Yeah, it was the draft is way crazier than I thought it would be.
You mentioned this a bit already, but let's dive into kind of the relationship with your team, Sanders Motorsport. How did you kind of connect with them, and then sort of how has it kind of developed through the season, and what are some things that they do that you couldn't race without?
For sure. They've been amazing all season. I actually met Alan at the first day I was ever in a car. He was there as well. Him and the team owner that I was with are fairly close. I met Alan, and I was at the time I was going down in like a couple months to do my SCCA license down in the US. And I was talking about it, and it happened. Gavin at the time last year was driving GT4 and SRO. So his teammate Mackay Stevens ended up being my instructor for my SCCA license. And at the time that we had no clue that there was that connection. So it was like just by chance that I linked up with Mackay, and he was an excellent instructor. So that's how I met Alan. And then just from there, I wasn't originally going to run with Alan this year. I was going to run an SPC, but there's a little bit of fallout there between the team and the series. So that got scrapped. And then it was, I think, in February, this mad dash panic to get into something. And it just happened. We felt like a TCA kind of just came up to the market, and Alan's like, "Hey, this is what we want to do with you. Would you be interested?" And we're like, "For sure." At that point, we didn't have any other options really. So February went down to VIR to pick it up, and then first time in the car was at VIR as well, which is a crazy track. One of my favorite tracks so far as well. And then a couple weeks later, maybe a month later, on my birthday, actually, we went down to Summit Point, and that was an amazing experience. If anybody has a chance to go to Summit Point, definitely do it. The facilities are top tier and the tracks are amazing. Yeah.
And so you mentioned a bit kind of the coaching and the setup that they've been doing. Have they been kind of coaching you not just on the driving side, but learning how to kind of help give feedback to get the car set up right and get the most out of setup changes?
Definitely. I think at the start of the season at VIR and at Summit Point, that was the big focus, was the communication. I think with every driver and with every team, whenever you switch drivers and teams, that communication has to be like rebuilt almost. You kind of have the baseline of what the communication is, but how you communicate with a team is different from every person. So I think building up that level of communication, and then them also understanding the car better, has just, yeah, like I said earlier, the setups have been on point.
You watched it before, you'll know what this is, but the hot lap section. So it's just kind of rapid fire Q&A. Jump right into them if you're ready.
For sure.
So first one, do you prefer wet or dry races?
Definitely dry. I love the feeling of G forces, so having that extra grip
Yeah,
is
but you don't like the feeling of living on the edge of grip, that like sliding around and
yeah, it's fun, but there's just something about, you can live on the edge of grip too on the dry. There's just something about the higher G forces, especially through something like turn 8 at CTMP, is you can't beat it.
what's the most important to you? Corner entry, apex, or exit?
I think it really depends on the next corner after it, right? If you're coming up into a complex, you're always trying to optimize your route through the complex of corners, where if it's just a single corner, then it's exit for me.
And what's a bucket list track to drive?
Definitely Silverstone. It's up there on my bucket list, and then as well as Gilles Villeneuve. That's Those two tracks are definitely on the bucket list.
What's a bucket list event to attend as a fan, like motorsports event to attend as a fan?
I think definitely a rally. I think that's,
Yeah,
yeah, I've never been to a rally. I've been to some other motorsports events before as a fan, but going to a rally I think would definitely be top of the bucket list currently.
me too. I've never been to one either. That's a great answer. Would you want to go to a rally that's on snow, gravel, dirt, pavement, like the Safari rally or like the Swedish rally? What
I think kind of like on gravel through the trees. That's
like Finland would be? Yeah,
yeah, Finland, where even if it was snowy, I think just going through the trees like that, watching cars
yeah.
right at that limit would be absolutely amazing.
Who is the most influential person in your life and why?
Yeah, for racing, I've had so many mentors. I've been so lucky and fortunate to have so many mentors. I can't really just choose one. There's such a long list between Alan, Gavin, Mackay, Demi as well. Like just the list just keeps going on and on and on. So I've been really lucky and fortunate with that. Um, and then personal life, probably my dad. I think that's a pretty common answer, but just watching his work ethic and how hard he works, and yeah, I think that's really given me the drive to work hard at racing.
Heading into the final round here at CTMP in a couple of weeks, what are kind of goals for the weekend, things you're looking forward to, kind of things you're focused on, and sort of the mindset and into the final round here? It's P2 in the championship.
Yeah, right now the pressure's really on. Uh, that I can still technically win the championship. It's going to be tough. Trevor is an excellent driver, so having to, I think I have to win every race if I want to win the championship, and then I think he needs to finish like P3 or something like that. I can still mathematically win, but it's going to be definitely a massive challenge. So I think just coming out guns blazing, I think is the big goal.
And then how about after the weekend, do you have any kind of plan set for 2024, still in the works, or any idea of what you'd like to do?
Well, I would like to be an F1, obviously, but I think that's that's
Yeah.
not in the cards for 2024. Uh, yeah, I think right now the plan is TCA, but we're still open to other options, maybe TCR or GT4, depending on
What pops up?
how things fall into, yeah, how what pops up, sponsors,
Yep.
just a whole bunch of different variables go into finding a ride for 2024. But right now, TCA is looking like the most likely.
Describe the biggest challenge for you in racing so far, and then also your proudest moment in your racing career thus far.
I think my biggest challenge sometimes is still the fatigue, right? Like I'm still dealing with my illness and it causes me to fatigue faster than other people. So figuring out ways to stay rested at the track is been really important for me. So if you come by the trailer occasionally, I'll be passed out in the trailer, like right up until like 40 minutes before the race, and then I'm ready to go. Got my energy up there. Um, and then I think my proudest moment was definitely the night race win. Coming into cars and this being my first full season in cars in a championship as well, at night on a street course, right? All of that coming together, that has definitely my top moment in motorsports so far.
Side question to that, but so doing Indy and GP3R, which one was your favorite? Because they're similar but very different, right? In terms of the event, the atmosphere.
Actually, I was coming into the season dreading both of them, right? I had never done a street course before. My only exposure to street courses were like Monaco from F1 and like what they have there. And I'm like, I'm dreading this street course. Like, I'm like, do I have what it takes to actually perform here? A lot of doubt in my head about how competitive I would be. So coming in and then having a P2 at Indy, and then coming to GP3R and having a couple wins in a P2, I think I actually kind of like the street circuits now. But overall, GP3R was definitely my favorite. I think it just fit everything into my driving style perfectly. Yeah, we had just right package, good setup. Team did absolutely outstanding.
So by the end of it, did you kind of like the walls? You weren't. You were kind of. Oh, I like to get closer, get closer.
I got a little too close in the second race.
Yeah,
Took
that
off my
mirror
mirror.
probably had something to do with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's okay.
you weren't the only one.
Yeah, everybody on the podium in that race, we all lost our right side mirrors. Every single one of
Yeah,
us lost the right side mirror. So I wasn't the only one. Um, we bought a couple of extra right side mirrors for that reason to the event, and we should. I think we might have had a couple left side mirrors as well. I wasn't 100% sure, but I almost took my left side mirror off during the night race. And coming into turn 4, I just clipped the inside wall on the apex and it snapped shut. So on my my on the onboard video, you can see me like just like reaching out the window, like stabbing at it with my fingers because I can't fully reach it, hoping to get it to pop back out. I finally
Oh,
did. Um,
that's funny.
so yeah.
Yeah. Once the walls don't intimidate you, I mean, it's kind of like driving in the wet, right? The best advice I've ever got for racing the wet is like, don't let it scare you. Find something you can enjoy about it, and you'll progress and get quicker and quicker. And I think something like a street circuit where you're inches from walls and trying to be that precise and perfect is Yeah, you can't let it kind of intimidate you.
For sure. Best advice I got about the walls is they're not there, right? You're just on a regular track. You're just
Yeah,
don't look at them, you won't hit them.
yeah.
So
They're
yeah,
they're not there until they are.
exactly.
Do you want to talk a bit about kind of obtaining sponsorship and sort of anything from that journey, or that side of the journey you've had?
Yeah, for sure. So this year we've had a few sponsors that have been absolutely amazing. Yeah, we've had Stouffville Honda, Rapworks, and Rosewood Marketing. They have helped us out so much. No massive cash deal sponsors yet, but like with Stouffville Honda, we get parts at cost. So that has saved us a ton of
That's
money in
awesome.
parts,
Yeah,
right? Just running a race car.
and mirrors.
Yeah, mirrors too. But yeah, just running race cars, right? Every things just break that you don't expect to break,
Yeah.
and they've been absolutely amazing. Yeah, and then Rapworks, obviously, we have to get parts of the car rewrapped every now and then. They've been amazing sponsors too. And then Rosewood Marketing has really helped me personally and my not-for-profit driven living develop personal brand and then brand for the not-for-profit as well. So they've been absolutely amazing. But finding sponsors was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. It's it's definitely a challenge. I've gotten in the door with a lot of companies, but lots of them are a little bit too big for what we're doing. I think that the reach that we have is, well, it's pretty big, is just not big enough for some of the larger companies. And I'm hoping in the years to come that motorsports in Canada really picks up and we're right there. So it's just makes it a little bit easier to find that money.
How about, do you have any advice to maybe yourself back in karting? You know, the young drivers that are just getting into go-karts. If they were a late bloomer like you, getting into it late, they didn't start when they're 8 years old. You know, what advice might you give to them?
I think for people, especially getting into it late, it's not too late to start, right? It might not lead to a career in motorsports. It might lead to a career in motorsports. You never know. But just enjoy it. Enjoy the karting. I know when I was karting, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and there was weekends where I finished like top 10 out of 30 carts, but I just wasn't happy, right? I put so much pressure on myself to win and to do well that it kind of almost took the enjoyment out of it for me. Um, and as well as karting, like if you're not the top driver in karts, moving into cars, actually you might be a better driver in cars, right? It doesn't always it doesn't translate one to one. I think for me, comfort in cars has been a lot higher than in go-karts, even with Trevor being my main competition and having so much more experience than me. I think my comfort level in cars and my ability to learn in cars has been better than in karts. I Yeah. And for the young drivers getting into karts, it's just enjoy it, have fun.
Oh, that is some great advice. You're the first one to really say that, but it does make so much sense because there are, as there should be, but there's that much more people in karts and that much more people that's all they might do. And again, not that that's a bad thing at all by any means, but like you said, to get noticed or really do anything, you have to be that top guy. And I think some people, if they save the time and money and just maybe get into cars a little earlier, you have that better chance of being that top guy. And like you said, learning a lot more.
For sure. And especially in Canada, it's not like you're in the FIA World Cup of karting, right? If you're winning, your recognition is only really in the karting paddock. I feel like even at CTMP, the kart track is right there. You can walk to the main track. There's such a divide, and it just happened to be in the right place at the right time that I managed to get over to the main track to talk to the right people. So I think going over to to whether you're at CTMP or wherever you're at, going over to the car track and talking to people, team owners, drivers, just talk to everybody. And that will eventually you'll just talk to the right person and you can end up in a car.
Absolutely. And to add on to that too, listening as well, right? It's the other side of networking, especially in the racing community, there's a lot of people that they love to talk, and you kind of sometimes just got to listen and soak that up and build relationships. kind of both ways, right?
Just talking to everybody and listening to what everybody has to say can really benefit you. Sometimes you have to like weed out the false information, but I think just having as much information as possible can really benefit you as a driver and moving up.
Anything or anyone you'd like to kind of shout out and thank? I'm sure there's lots of them, but
Yeah, for sure. I have to thank the entire team at Sanders Motorsport: Alan, Vic, Steve, Ashik, Gavin, Ellen. They've all been excellent. Definitely, I'm biased here, but definitely the best team on the grid. And then my sponsors, Rapworks, Stova Honda, and Rosewood Marketing. They've been excellent sponsors. I don't think I could do it without them. And then, of course, my parents. They've been supporting me all the way through. So they're definitely my biggest fans for sure.
And then anything you'd like to kind of share or promote that's going on in your life?
Yeah, definitely. On Instagram, you can find me at erickunz.ca, and then you can find all my links from there. And that's where you can stay updated on myself and what's going on with my not-for-profit and the series.
All right. Well, thanks for joining on. It was a lot of fun. We're going to see you in a couple of weeks at CTMP.
Definitely, yeah. I'm super excited.
Still going bad on you.
Like, I got lucky. I crashed a go-kart, posted that, 1.4 million views.
Anyway, whoa, I can feel like 80 rats in my Marys. Me and Drizzy back to back is getting scary.